Hi everyone, this is Total War Therapy and today we're gonna make another tier maker list, this time of the Khorne roster. As I said more in details in the previous video, compared to other tier maker lists, in this case we would follow three main criteria. The first criteria is the price and building. We will not judge the unit just for its value, but even for the building through the which it will be recruitable and for the price. The second is the cost opportunity. That it means that, okay, this unit is good, but there are other options that can fit the role better, or there are other ways to grant the same kind of value. The third and last is the micromanagement. I mean, how much effort of the player is required to play that unit effectively. So don't forget to subscribe if you want to support this channel, and we can start with the infantry of Khorne. First we have the Marauders, with the shield and with the dual weapons. Since the new the rework of the tier building of Khorne, I can tell you that the Marauders with shield and axe are completely useless, and for me are the Chaos version level. I mean, not recruitable, because you have already the option with the with the settlements to recruit the Chaos Warriors of Khorne with shield, so it's just not necessary to spend money on these very lesser units. At the same time, the Marauders with the dual weapons are a little better because they can offer an anti-infantry bonus that you have to wait the third building of the third tier building of the Mortal Warriors to have the same kind of power. So in this case we will put in the C tier. Moving forward, we can start with Chaos Warriors of Khorne, and the version with the shield and axe for me is completely OP. This is because they have shield, and it's a unit quite in the middle between the Marauders and the Chosen that we will talk later, but it's good even in the late campaign because it's very armored, very defensive, and with the boost of technology and the red line of the skill trees of Lord, they are completely amazing. I'm really in love also with the version with Albert, but I will put in the C tier, because in the way that Khorne army works, it will be effective in very little situations, because Khorne is an attacking offensive faction, so it will always be in the position to attack, to move forward the enemy, and having a very slow armored infantry, it just doesn't match the core of Khorne. If this unit would be like in the Empire roster, it would be for sure overpowered units, but in the roster we need the fast units. Different is the case of the Chaos Warriors with dual weapon, that in this case for me is a B, because they are good, they are very armored, but at the same time Khorne, when you start to upgrade the buildings, you have access to many different kinds of damage dealer option, and this is just a support unit that you're supposed to put in the second line, where you can put monsters, characters, cavalry, or way to flank enemies. There are of course the demons of Khorne. The Forsaken of Khorne are just another units of generic Warriors of Chaos with the mark of Khorne in this case. They are actually quite unique in this roster because they have a weapon strike that is not armor piercing, but it's very high. The number is good. They have some kind of good stats, but at the same time I really don't use them in this roster. That's why I will put them in the Chaos War Shrine. Khorne has a lot of ways to deal damage, and even if they can be effective in other monogods roster, in this I just don't feel the same. Different is the case of the Khorngors. Khorngors for me have been a very good addition, because they are anti-large armor piercing like the Chaos Warriors of Khorne with Alberts, but at the same time they are faster, and those 10 points of fast more, it's I mean it's very good, and they feel that role far better, because you can just put them behind your front line and attack the monster and the cavalry where it's more needed. And with their wider formation, their vanguard deployment, there are many ways to use it. Talking about the Chosen, they require a completely different building that will give you access to them and to the Skull Reaper and to Wrathmongers, and I feel to put them exactly in this position. Why they are alternate compared to the Chaos Warriors of Khorne with dual weapon or with shield? Because the version with shield for me is effective, of course, but it's not that helpful compared to the price. As I said, the Chaos Warriors of Khorne with shield, they're good even in the very late campaign, and I mean, you don't need an upgraded version of that, more defensive, because they already do their job. Different is the case of the Chosen with the dual weapons, because they're with the more armor, they don't need shield, for example, against arrows or little bullets, so you can use them as a front line, and at the same time, compared to many others, elite infantry, melee infantry or other roster, they do an amazing job, so they're completely worthy their value in the late campaign. Skull Reaper and Wrathmongers. At the beginning, when the new DLC was released with the splash attacks problem and many other things, they were actually not good units, but after the patches they made, now they're actually a very good option. Even if you need a particular building in advanced military things for them, they are quite useful. The Skull Reaper are very good to tear down infantry of any kind. They will take more damage compared to other Chaos Warriors, but at the same time they will do many more kills, and I love to use them against other Chaos factions, or I mean most offensive faction, because given their very low armor and the number compared to the Chaos Warriors, they will take more damage against defensive faction like Empire, Kislev and so on. The Wrathmongers are the advanced version of that. They are armor piercing, anti-infantry, and with the immune to flanking ability, they're just indestructible. I mean, they have no weaknesses, instead of course of except the missile attack, but yeah, they do an amazing jobs. They're probably one of the the strongest elite infantry melee of all the game, and they're very good to use it, and they are just a 4th tier building. I mean, you don't need even to reach the 5th tier. Now let's talk about demons. If you want to focus on the demon buildings and not in the mortals one, you will start to fill up your army of a lot of Bloodletters. That for me are definitely a C tier units. First, because they are demons, so when they will start to lose leadership, they will fall down very soon. And then they have this anti-infantry armor piercing attack that is completely useless in the very early stages of the campaign. So given all the stats, for me they are not a winning choice compared to all the others option we already talked about. Different is the case of the Exalted Bloodletters. They need a 3 tier building, and at that point, when you're already in the mid campaign, they are very useful, because they give you this anti-infantry armor piercing damage with a fire attack that can be useful against the starting elite infantry of the other rosters, because the other faction will start to recruit a more armored version of their warriors, and in this case they will be effective. Starting with the beast, we have the Chaos Wounds of Khorne. They are probably the most boring unit of this roster, but I still give them a C tier, because if you are focusing your army not on demons but in mortals, is the first very fast harassing units that you can recruit, and it's quite good at their job. Of course, it's very cheap, so you cannot expect a lot of things from them, but they do what they have to do. They fall down very soon, but yeah, I mean, I cannot give more than a C, and I'm very sorry to say that they are the same level for me of the Flesh Hounds. That is one of my favorite model in the Khorne roster, but at the same time, given their they're very easy to be killed, to get killed, and I really don't like that. I mean, every time I use them and I just miss what they are doing for one moment, they are already falling apart for their demonic states. And I mean, it's very, very annoying. I really would have liked this unit to be far stronger, but I see them losing even against very light cavalry, even if they have armor piercing damage and they are supposed to be better of them. I mean, they're still, they just don't do great, and I cannot give them more than a C tier. I mean, in this case, if you want to build an army with mortars, I really prefer a Chaos Hounds in any case. The Chaos Furies of Khorne, it's a unit that in the last campaigns I completely forgot to recruit. So I don't know why I'm giving them a B tier, but they're actually the only flying option except the Bloodthirster. And I mean, if you are in against a faction that use a lot of fleet power, of air power, they can be good. I mean, if you have against a Thunderbirds, the only way to beat is with some Chaos Furies if you don't get yet a Bloodthirster. So they deserve a B tier. They are tough, they are easy to recruit. You need just I think a second tier building, yes. So I mean, they are a good option and they are quite unique. So as I said, for the cost opportunity sake, they deserve this. Chaos Spawn the same. I will put the Chaos War Shrine. They have some good ability like the Unbreakable, but after the addition of the Blood Beast of Khorne, for me they are completely useless. You can have for the same price this more charging and more damaging with more armor piercing units, and they fit better the Khorne feeling, and they are not generic. That is something that for me is very important. Now, the Blood Beast of Khorne aren't actually good. For me, they are a second tier building units. This is the only problem with them. If they would be a second tier, it would be completely fine for me to put them in the overpower section. But since you need a three tier building, it's just completely I really don't get. But yeah, they are strong at their job, they have a good charging, they take damage very, very easily. The Minotaurs of Khorne are completely insane. They deserve, both of them, a overpowered level. They have insanely strong armored, and yeah, every stats of them is completely amazing. You need a 4-tier building, but not in the advanced section of the military building, so completely fine. Now let's talk about cavalry. Let's start with the Marauders of Khorne, that I will not spend any word on them, so I will put them in Chaos War Shrine section. They can be even helpful in some situation, but I really never recruited them, never. I completely forgot about their existence. They're just a generic version of Chaos Warriors from Norska probably, so I don't care. Now, the Chaos Knights of Khorne. I'm very, very disappointed of putting them on the B tier, but actually they do their job quite well. You need a decent mid-tier building in the advanced section, and they do their job for their fastness. I mean, they're fast, they are strong, they are armored, and they can easily flank the enemy, and they have really little predators in this game. So for how much I dislike the thing, maybe I will put the charging version in the C tier because it requires a 4-tier building, but the normal version, it's okay in a B tier. I mean, if you want to build a mortal army, I suggest to recruit it. It can be quite useful. About the chariots is a little the same. We have the lesser version that for me is a C tier. It does its job, but nothing impressive compared to what other Khorne units can make. And the version with the gore beast is definitely better. It's funnier to use, it's monsters, more armor piercing, and they can easily charge around your enemies, even mid infantry in melee. So it's quite strong and helpful, and is a little less generic. The Blood Crusher of Khorne are definitely a very high tier cavalry, but they have a problem, is that they require a 5-tier building to be recruited, and it doesn't make sense. I mean, they're strong, but not that strong. They're not that armor. They're still demons, so they will go down at some point. But I mean, I understand it's a good choice, even for their tier and their price, because they can stand the melee combats very well. They can charge. They are a little fast, and yeah, many good stats that justify the good choice of them. The same thing for the Skull Crusher. In this case, you have a heavier, more charging demonic cavalry, and they're actually not they're not demonic, as I say. Being immortals, they are tougher, they are harder to take down. They good at their job, but they still require a very hard building. And when you reach that level, you can just start to take monsters, and they are less necessary, in my opinion. The Chaos War Shrine, I will put it in the Chaos War Shrine section for obvious reason, but I would like to say that with the new arrangement of the tier building of Khorne, probably even in the future in the other mono gods, they are a little better, because to be recruited now they need just the 3-tier building of the mortals in the littles, I mean, not in the advanced section of the military like before. So I mean, they are easier to recruit, and they can actually fill their role. Their problem is that they are still very slow, a big target for missile units, and yeah, they just they're not useful in any situation. You can just take one for fun if you want, but it's not, they're not worthy to recruit. And now let's talk about the Blood Shrine of Khorne. That it's a unit that has been criticized a lot by other content creators, but actually I don't understand why. I tested on the battlefield in many circumstances, and he always do a very great job. It doesn't require a very high tier building to be recruited, and it's very fast. He has a good mass, a good mobility. You can just send it through all the battlefield, hitting infantry and giving buffs. And it does the job very well. Yeah, you need an advanced building to recruit it, but when it's very useful to have one of them in your roster if you're building our demonic focus army. And the other version, the Skull Cannon, that now requires a 4-tier building in advanced military section, for me is a completely overpowered unit. First, because it's the only unit that give you the range superiority in the Khorne roster. If you're fighting other factions of Chaos, or not that defensive, you will probably can make them going to you, thanks to their theory range superiority. With the patches now, his missile attack is actually valuable, because before it was just aiming at nothing, targeted at nothing, and dealing basically no damage. But now it's stronger. It can tear apart even just with the missile attack units, and then it can charge them and replenish ammunition fighting them, and replenish hit points and many stuff. So it's completely wonderful units. And now, yeah, I think that in any kind of formation you are playing, if you want to be as most versatile as possible, you should recruit one of them. Now let's talk about the big monsters of this roster. First, we have the Soul Grinder of Khorne. I already made a video about Soul Grinders, ranking them, that I suggest to watch it, and in this case I will put it in the B tier. It's strong, don't take me wrong, but it requires an advanced specific building, and there are many units that can do a better job. Like for example the Blood Shrine of Khorne, in my opinion. Of course it's tankier, and he has this precursor missile ability that it's more confusing than effective. It doesn't require a lot of micromanagement, but at the same time, for its price, that it's almost close to one of the Bloodthirster, he does less damage. He requires a little less tension for missile attack from enemies, and yeah, it's versatile, it's fast, and the B tier is actually a good tier, but I will not do a doomstack of them. The Bloodthirster, it's definitely a overpowered unit. it's incredible. Even if it requires a specific building that in the advanced section, it's a flying monster, hard hitting, that can tear down easily any kind of large entity. I mean, basically it's a super predator. There are not many units in this game, probably known, at least talking about other monsters that can fight with it. It's very mobile, even if being a big dude is a problem because you are vulnerable to missile attack. In its case, it can fly, it's fast, so it doesn't have a big problem with that. The last unit is the Slaughter Brute, the new big single entity monster added with the last DLC, and for me it's A tier. It's still a big dude, and so yeah, the same as old problems, so anti-large, missile attack, some artillery pieces, but at the same time, for that level of building and the price is what you are basically asking for. In a very elite army fighting against other very elite army of other faction, it's very useful to have one or a couple of them just to absorb damage, to deal damage. I mean, they're completely perfect at the role, even if they are probably less interesting, and they're, you know, the same old colossal beast of basically any roster now. Thank you for following me. Please don't forget to share your opinions about what you think it can be done differently, or if you have other opinions about the tier of these units. And please don't forget to subscribe, and see you very soon.